And all I'm saying is I think everybody was so frightened of putting their neck out and going, what if? Evidence-based is bollocks, right? This is Roger L. Martin, my personal guru and Svengali in the business world. So don't listen to me. Fucking waste of time. Go and read the books written by Roger L. Martin. He was the dean of the Rotman Business School in Toronto, okay? Go and read his Medium posts. He's, I think, the best, strategy thinker. He's the heir to Peter Drucker, basically. And he says this whole evidence-based thing is a ridiculous barrier because there's no evidence about the future. What was complicated about the bloody coronavirus was novel. It was novel. Okay, it wasn't the same as other coronaviruses. Therefore, the evidence you had about past coronaviruses may or may not have had any bearing on the behavior and transmission of this one. But I think it's time. I think it's time we occasionally have the right to say, I think science is a bit shit. Okay, because we fetishize science completely. Oh, it's scientific. Oh, it looks scientific. There are fields in which that is entirely legitimate. I'm sure in cosmology, okay, the science is pretty legit. I'm absolutely sure that in elements of engineering, okay, it's totally legitimate to be scientific. This is what Roger Martin said in his Nudge talk. Aristotle specifically said you can only use the scientific method in fields where things cannot be different from the way they are. So tomorrow, gravity is going to be the same as it was yesterday, or else we've got far bigger problems to worry about again, right? Okay, right. There are certain aspects where the rules don't change. There are enormous parts of life, and Aristotle said the greater part of life involves decision-making in fields where things are different. And therefore, demanding that everything you do in a fat-tailed, chaotic world necessarily meets the rules you have laid down for operating in a totally deterministic and predictable world is a complete misapplication of the scientific method. I think, cops would have done a better job of solving the COVID problem than scientists would have done. A few things about cops. One, they know that they don't have all the information they need. Secondly, they accept the fact that some of the information they get is misinformation because people are lying to them. Some of it will be luck. Some of it will be probably, psychological branding. Some of it may be unbelievably trivial, by the way. And there's a guy I recommend here called Mark McCulloch, who's like a quick service restaurant hospitality marketing guru. And one of the things he points out is that a lot of cafes and restaurants fail to do the obvious because they know that they sell salads or they sell premium burgers. But the person walking by, unless they're an avid reader of Time Out, doesn't know that. So we had this interesting discussion in the office. We were talking about Oaxaca, and nobody knows what's a chimichanga, what's a burrito, people get muddled. And I suddenly said, actually, how many random punters in a London location, particularly if they're not even native, will know that Oaxaca's a Mexican restaurant in the first place? And Mark McCulloch told me the story of a woman who walked for 9 years every day, walked 200 yards past a branch of Chopped to buy salad for lunch. Now, she just assumed, she saw Chopped, she assumed chopsticks, she thought, I don't like spicy food, I'm going to ignore that. Right? So literally 9 years of her life, that was like the person who worked at Ogilvy when they were at Lancaster Bridge, who asked somebody, what's the closest tube to the office? And they said Embankment. And for the first 2 years at work, she travelled down to Charing Cross. And literally, after 2 years of this, she was walking back to Embankment. And someone says, you go and live in, you live in Finsbury Park or wherever it was. Why didn't you just walk to Charing Cross? She goes, well, I change at Charing Cross every morning. Oh. And she was literally changing trains. She did that 400 times before she realised that effectively they're more or less, I think, it's an extra 2 yards walk to get to Charing Cross versus the other one. Quite often it might be it might be a bottleneck, a mental bottleneck where loads of people are walking past and they don't know what you do. Now I'm talking to Mark McCulloch on a Zoom call with the guys who run Chaiwala. And they said, we realised this and we're going to put Indian street food cafe on the outside of all the restaurants. And Mark McCulloch, this is when I go, this is one of my I am not worthy moments, because I don't think I would have thought of this in 100 years. Okay? Mark McCulloch, just without pausing, just says, put Indian street food and cafe. Because then people who don't like Indian street food can still use you as a cafe.
Interesting.
And you now are solving 2 jobs to be done rather than just one.
Mm.
Now, sometimes I suspect major businesses fall or succeed on the basis of things they've never even noticed.